Welcome to Titan, you brave, enterprising players. Are you ready to set up industry chains, manage your population of miserable citizens and lobotomized employees, find artifacts and satisfy wants and wishes of a power-hungry council? Then you're in the right place. My name is Peter, and here on Paraphilosophy Videos, I'm going to give you a first look at Industries of Titan, a city-building simulation strategy game which comes out to early access today. If you remember, I mentioned this game in my list of upcoming games back in 2019 and again in 2020. It's finally here and it will remain in early access for a full year, so you will have time to grab it cheap and be part of the community as the game grows and it is developed further by Brace Yourself Games, who I have to thank for this opportunity to show off their game. So let's dive into the details of everything you can play in the Industries of Titan as of right now. Later, I will post tutorials and guides, as well as how-to videos on separate game mechanics. When setting up your game, you have a choice of 3 base game types: Standard, Survival and Zen. Because their names are quite self-explanatory, it's enough to say that Zen allows you to build freely with no enemies attacking you, Survival is the opposite, you fight until you lose, and Standard is the middle ground. Next step in setting up a game is choosing your faction. Right now, there is only the Landfallers faction with their specific starting conditions. Expect more factions as development continues. The last stage is choosing your destination on this moon. Low or high risk in reward, or a totally novel start, being a pioneer and having very rugged starting conditions. The more resources and space you want to have to start with, the more rebels, enemy forces, you can count on at your destination. Before you start the game, you have 2 very important options to check. Do you want to start with a tutorial, which is fantastically executed and fully voiced? I must say, from my experience, it teaches you the basics of the game really well. And the second option, whether or not you want to play on hardcore mode, which is simply put an Iron Man mode with no pause option and only 1 save slot. As you can see from the game setup, you can choose whatever fits your playstyle and everybody can find something that they are going to be happy playing. Now, as you can watch my first game unfold, I will tell you more about the game. What you can count on to be added during the early access are features such as transportation systems, ship-to-ship combat system, population simulation, tech trees, weather, more artifact types, more buildings, and more equipment and devices. And even more yet to be announced. The core gameplay consists of collecting basic resources such as minerals and isotopes, and more rare ones like artifacts. The surface of Titan is covered by remains of a fallen colonization attempt, from which you gain these basic resources by claiming new tiles with these ruins on them, surveying, then salvaging or destroying them based on which resource you want to get. You can also collect resources from the fields on the surface and later mine them underground. To do all of this, you have to set up fuel and power production inside your buildings at first, while later you can build entire buildings dedicated to these functions. Power on Titan is distributed wirelessly, both on the surface and inside the buildings, so Tesla's designs are now in outer space. You also need employees, lobotomized half-machine entities which you can create in a conversion capsule device, out of your citizens and artifacts. Another use for citizens is, and you will get a kicker out of this, is setting them up in front of monetization stations to click and watch ads. This generates credits used for repairing damaged buildings, unlocking new buildings and game options, and it will quite literally drain the life of your citizens. They work until they drop. Permanently. As your employees, after the conversion process, they become long-lasting drones which will collect and move resources around, set up building sites, operate special buildings like waste disposal or defense turrets. Why do you even need turrets? Well, we'll get to that part. In order to get more land tiles, enable off-world import of new workforce, and basically do anything besides building and production, you need influence points and permissions from the ruling council. They're also in charge of trading, and you can exchange almost anything for anything besides the artifacts. These you can outright give the council for more influence points. All of your actions and population generate waste. It has to be managed, and in the start of the game, your only option is to collect it and then burn it in the mentioned waste disposal plant. As you burn the waste, you create pollution. The more pollution that accumulates on a tile, it becomes more dangerous until it's concentrated enough to kill your population. You remember when I said in the beginning that I'm going to talk about only the basics? Yes, these were all just basics. I haven't even talked about combat, enemy rebel factions, other companies as your competitors, and battleships. One cool feature I do want to mention now is the ability for buildings which have not been interconnected with other buildings to burrow beneath the surface to protect them during an attack. It is a good thing that the normal mode comes with a pause option, because even experienced players in this genre would get in over their heads with all these features. There is no multiplayer right now, but the developers said they could add it later. As for the graphics, you have probably noticed by now that they are made by blending low polygon and vortex art styles. The music, sound and voiceover are much better than the average indie developer. Yes, for all of you who thought this game had a AAA publisher or development team behind it, you were mistaken. I have been following this game for years and I am overjoyed I can finally get to play it. I have enjoyed every minute of the gameplay and I cannot wait to finish this first look video and get back to playing. You really do not need any better recommendation than that. And if you want a cherry on top of this cake, the developers have posted that the final game will be DRM free. If you want to get the game today, you can find the links to its current store page in the description of this video, and more links will be placed there when the game launches on more stores. Versions for consoles, Mac and Linux have yet to be announced. I would like to thank you for watching and remind you to expect more videos about this cool game from me in the future. Happy gaming!